All right, everybody. We are excited today to be joined by Michael Kelley from BikeWalkKC, and we have a lot to share about all the great work that BikeWalkKC is doing on this fantastic partner spotlight. So, Michael, thanks for joining, and tell us a little bit about yourself and what it is you do for BikeWalkKC.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me, Matt. I am the policy manager for BikeWalkKC, which means that anything related to the built environment in terms of policies, plans, or projects, I work to advocate along with community members to help to make that happen.
So that's great. I know how important that is right now. Speaking of right now, the last few months have probably been a big shift for a lot of organizations. How has BikeWalkKC responded to operating during the pandemic?
Sure. So all of our operations have mostly shifted online or at home. We've been working from home, most of us, since March. We also run the area's bike share program, which has been taking extra precautions to not only keep our staff who work out in the field safe, but also extra precautions to make sure we're sanitizing bikes so that people who ride don't risk catching the COVID-19 virus.
That's great. Well, I know you and I tend to work more frequently in these kind of coalition efforts. One of those coalition efforts has a big event coming up on, I think it's November 19th, right? There's a Complete Streets Ordinance going up in Wyandotte County. And so this video is going up live right before that ordinance comes to pass. So can you share a little bit about what is a Complete Streets Ordinance and why people should care about that?
Sure. So, complete streets as a general idea is this idea that streets should be made for people, regardless of your preferred mode of transportation, whether it be walking, using the bus, biking, or even driving. You deserve to be able to get from point A to point B as easily as possible. And an ordinance is an opportunity to make that idea a reality for a given community. And so, along with a number of folks in the IAT, including you, we're working to get this ordinance adopted in KCK, which would be a huge first step towards improving multimodal transportation in Wyandotte County.
And am I right in assuming that Wyandotte County would potentially have a complete streets ordinance, but we're not the first ones in the region to have it? Westwood, Kansas, Kansas City, Missouri. Can you say a little bit more about what the Complete Streets Ordinance has meant for, residents in those areas?
Sure. So KCMO is obviously the biggest city in the region and the biggest city so far to adopt a Complete Streets Ordinance. So I think that's probably the best way to encapsulate what's going on with this. The Complete Streets Ordinance there was adopted in 2017, and since that time, we've seen a number of projects that are considered complete streets come through. Things like the parking protected bike lanes on Armour, the new Gillum cycle track. All of these are opportunities to improve the built environment, not just for cyclists or drivers, but also for pedestrians, as well as people with limited mobility or those living with disabilities. So we see it as an important first step to set the tone for how a community can prioritize the transportation needs of everyone rather than one part of the overall group.
That's great. On a more somber note, I work for Children's Mercy Hospital, which tries to take care of children. And I joined you as you moderated a panel, I think earlier this week on the Day of Remembrance. And there were some stories that were shared about children who unfortunately are the victims of traffic crashes. So can you say a little bit more about how important this work is for the health of children in our community?
Sure. And to give a little bit of background, World Day of Remembrance will be on Sunday, November 15th, and it is an international day of observance where we remember those lost or injured by traffic violence, thank emergency responders for their work, but also grapple with the ways that we can make our streets safer for everyone. In terms of what it means in Kansas City, whenever someone is injured or killed as a result of traffic violence, that is something that is forever altered or taken from our city, and so that means that someone who could have been a doctor, a lawyer, an elected official, is no longer able to contribute their gifts, their potential to our society, and we're all worse off for that. And so this is an opportunity to remember those folks, to think about what we're losing, but also to commit ourselves to the steps we need to take to make that a thing of the past.
So you're talking about steps that we can take. I know I saw some different website links during that webinar, but can you, for help us understand, for somebody who maybe isn't in touch with the active transportation world or doesn't always encounter BikeWalkKC, what are just a couple of key ways that anyone in our city can get involved and be an advocate for this kind of safety? What are some of the ideas that they should kind of get behind and look for?
Sure. So, I mean, it can start with something as simple as learning more about your community. Oftentimes, you can find out what plans or what projects may be on the horizon for consideration, and that's one of the first ways that you can kind of immerse yourself in that world. Another thing that you can do is many communities have opportunities to get more involved, typically with volunteering committees, things like the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee in Kansas City, Missouri, or the Infrastructure Action Team in KCK. All of these are chances for ordinary folks like you and me to be able to understand the nuances of transportation, but also begin to ask those questions about what do these changes to the built environment mean for someone like me, and also begin to really push the people who make those decisions, be it elected officials, city staff, to really begin to consider how they can also make streets safer for everyone.
That's great. That's a good call to action. And I know for a lot of the folks who watch these updates, they come from different organizations and different parts of the city. And it's great to see BikeWalkKC be such a strong advocate for all of us to be more safe in our streets. So thank you for the work you do, Michael. It's a pleasure as always to catch up. But I generally try to end with one final question. Weather's getting cooler, but it's still nice out for a little bit longer. Where's your favorite place to go for a ride, maybe with the family or with kids or anything like that? Where do you go to be physically active right now to kind of relieve some stress and get outside?
So if I'm riding a bike, my wife loves to ride along the trolley track trail all the way down to 85th Street and beyond, and all the way up to the plaza. If we have our daughter with us and we need to walk, we typically go to Swope Park. It's close to the zoo, and there's a lot of green space to be able to walk around, and it's always beautiful, especially when it's cloudy out at sunset. So it's just kind of my little slice of the world that I can really go in and be peaceful. So.
Great. Well, thanks for sharing that. Thanks for your time today, Michael, and thanks for all the work that you're doing. So excited to have more Fit-Tastic partner spotlights coming up later this month. But until next time, thank you.
Thank you.